Live by accident. I guess I'm live now. Anonymous says, "What? I just gambled $10. Then I won $10. Gambling is for suckers. Self-realization kicks in. Deflect.exe.la la la. Trixie, you're late. No. I'm right on time. I'm always on time. Because I'm the time witch. I decide what time it is. If it's not on my time, it's not in real time. Alright, I'm at a park. I'm at a completely empty park. A completely, like, a pocket dimension, basically. A place no one is or where I expect anyone to arrive. So I'm in a pocket dimension. I came here because I needed to find a pocket dimension to flee to for a little while. I can't figure out how weird I should be when I live stream, you know? Like, is it better to be full tilt weird? Or is it better to be, like, marginally understandable? I can never tell. I kind of try to just stay in the same headspace that works for the people who pay me, you know? They seem to... There's, like, a character that, like, suits being paid on a live stream well. But I don't know. What if I could be more paid on a live stream if I had affected a character I've never affected before? I think about these things a lot. How many characters am I even capable of affecting? How much diversity is there in my brain inclusion? How much diversity is there allowed to be in my brain inclusion? What is too far? Do I have some personas that maybe can't see the light of day because of who they are? You know? Probably. Probably most of them, actually. Maybe that's true for most people, though. I feel like I keep blinking and shifting realities. You know, you ever wonder, like, what's the weirdest thing about the most normal person you know? Like, I feel like I am the darkest secret of the world's most normal person. Like whoever is out there, like, just, like, living a completely milquetoast lifestyle in all ways except that they're a fan of my content. And to them, that is, like, insanely edgy and they could never tell anybody in their life because they're so normal. But, like, to me or to the rest of my audience, it's, like, normal to consume this content in the context of who you interact with because you are not normal and the people you interact with are not normal. So contextually, I'm normal to the people who watch me unless I am their, again, darkest secret. I know there are plenty of people who pay attention to me who won't talk about it because it's not good for the money. And they know it's not good for the money because they don't see me making any money or trying to make them any money. There's lots of people who I think I could make a lot of money for, but they have to be willing to gamble on me. And I think that the reason that that doesn't happen much is I, myself, am not much of a gambler. I don't have a gambler's tendency. I have a thrifter's tendency. And I think I like that about myself, but at the same time, I don't know, it limits the scope of what I feel like I can do as a human being in not just artistic ways, but just like in modern America, it's not really easy to get by on not having very much money, you know? Not having much to fuck around with. And I'm lucky in the sense that I basically define the parameters of my job, and doing my job is my favorite thing to do. So that puts me in a way better position than most people in the US. I'm going to talk about a lot of my own, what I see as my own personal privileges here. The privileges of this country and of me as a citizen within it. My real privileges. Because there are some, obvious being white is an advantage. It just gets you into more places in America. It won't get you into all places, but a lot of the places that you can't get into by being white, you probably don't want to be in, even if you're not white. A lot of those are places that the people who live in them are trying to get out and get into the white places. Now me, I have always lived in places that are somewhere in like the middle, like this bizarre interstitial zone. Very much a suburbanite. I would call myself the epitome of a suburbanite tyke, as dialect calls them. And that's through sheer effort of my dad selling a lot of cars to a lot of people. That's about it. That's my whole dynasty, my whole ability to live the way I have is largely dependent on my dad being good at selling cars. And it's a unique talent he's got, because my dad's a high school dropout. He's my height, 5'8.5". He's not especially intelligent, but maybe a bit above average, and which is a good place to be if you want to be successful. Is just a bit above average, not so much above average that you cannot relate to the average person. That's not a good, it's not helpful to you unless you can use all that extra smarts to figure out how to communicate real good, which some people do, but not everybody gets there that quickly. So my dad, I think he grew up in a very communal kind of sense, that he had friends, he went to school, he knew people, he interacted with people in his day-to-day life. But as soon as he joined the Navy, he pretty much left all that behind and has no real sense of connection to his upbringing or the places he grew up. I mean, he does, but he's never communicated it to me in a way, He's not very good at talking about his past or his emotions, because most of it he's tried to block out because it was very dark. His upbringing was incredibly dark. So he does not try to think about that shit. He spent his whole 20s and 30s doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot of alcohol, and selling a lot of cars, and having a few children along the way. Now, my dad rides a bicycle. That is his main thing that he does. Now, the reason I'm talking about this is that I'm going to tell you the story of how my daddy is a gambler and my mommy is a thrifter. And by their powers combined, they have created the worst chimera ever. Me. Of these two mentalities. Because the gambler mentality is basically go big or go home. Big risk, big reward, Big payoffs, high highs, low lows. Now, the problem with being a gambler type of a person is that they tend to have big emotions. And those big emotions can lead you straight to suicide, straight to social suicide, definitely to making drastic, life-changing decisions on the regular. That's the level my dad falls at. He's never been able to understand out-and-out suicide, but he will completely uproot every aspect of his life because of general sense of paranoia and feeling like he's in a losing bet and needs to roll the dice again. A constant need to roll the dice again. And I grew up heavily influenced by that because of the fact that my dad rolling the dice over and over again meant my entire life changing all the time. Changing houses, changing schools, just totally being in a new place with new people, and usually no connection whatsoever to whatever I had been doing in the previous place. So I'm used to just a total disconnect of life, basically, happening all the time. A rolling of the dice. Let's see if this house is better than the last house. Let's see if we're more comfortable in this situation. Let's see if this job treats me better, And usually the answer is, for better or worse, It might have been it might have been better than the previous situation. It might have been worse than the previous situation. But either way, you reach a point where you think, I can roll again. I can roll again. I see that this is cool, but I see something better. I'm going to roll again. That's gambler mentality. I don't think it's a very healthy mentality to have personally, but I also think that there's every incentive on the part of everybody who wants you to fuck up your life for their benefit to put you in that mentality. Advertising is all about putting you in a gambler mentality. Sales, marketing, pretty much all of marketing is about putting you in a gambler mentality. Thinking, maybe I will get as much out or more. Maybe I'll get out more than I put in. That's basically the gambler mentality. Maybe if I put in a lot, I'll somehow get a ton. But you might also not get anything out and just lose everything you put in. Thrifter mentality, on the other hand, is hold on to everything you got. Everything at your disposal, you gotta use it. It's yours. You should hold on to it. And don't let go. Your money, your things, your connections, your, life, your sense of self. Hold on to these things for dear life. Now, before my dad was constantly rolling the dice and causing our lives to change dramatically, my mom's mom was doing the same thing. So my mom also grew up constantly moving, constantly with her mother, usually because of the fact that she was changing relationships. Her mom had 6 kids, lost her husband about when the last kid was 2, the oldest was 10. So she bounced between different men, rolling the dice, looking for one that works. None of them are working. Whole life situation keeps changing. Now my mom, because she grew up in that environment, expects everything to disappear at any moment. And I am the same way. Both of us have grown up with a mindset that everything around you can disappear unless you hold on to it for dear life. You got to keep all your shit. And so my mom, especially when I was growing up, is a major hoarder. She's somebody who would just never throw anything away. I mean, trash, yes, for the most part. But like anything she bought, anything, no matter how useless, or if it, if it doesn't, nobody ends up wanting it, it's still here. It's still around somewhere. We would just, even though there's been a significant reduction in the amount of stuff we have hoarded around since the show Hoarders, and as a result of moving so many times and differing financial situations, we still have a ton of shit. And my mom will do things like she'll be going through a tub of old clothes that nobody wears anymore and asking me, do you want this? Will you wear this? I can't fit into it anymore. Maybe you'll want it. I'll maybe want a tenth of the things. Some of it's stuff I'd wear or will fit me. A lot of it's not. And some of it, if I don't want it, she'll put it into a Goodwill pile. And then some of it, she's just kind of holding on to. And there was one shirt she showed me that I said something like, oh, that's cool, you could probably sell that. And she was like, no, are you kidding me? This is like an heirloom or something like that, to that effect. And all I could think was, well, if it's going to me, if it's an heirloom for me and I'm not going to wear it, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to either give it to somebody who can wear it, or I'm going to sell it so that I can have the benefit of trading something that I have no use for something I have use for, money, So, but she sets it aside, and I'm just kind of thinking, okay, so you're going to hold on to that. You're not going to wear it. I'm not going to wear it. I think in her mind she's thinking that one of her kids will have grandkids and one of those grandkids might want it one day, and so it will stay in the family. But it's like clothes someone wore for a period of time 20 years ago that is still here because it looks cool, but a lot of it is, like, to me, incredibly tacky. It's, fashion from the late 80s and early 90s. Some of it holds up really well, some of it really doesn't. Me and my mom don't have the same taste in what we think is cute. A lot of what she wore is just really slutty because that was her image, not my image. Sporty is how I would describe my image. So, yeah, some of it's stuff I would wear, not a lot of it. A lot of this gothy stuff. My mom's got a lot of gothy stuff. Some of that I like. Whatever. The thrifter mentality is the hoarder mentality. Hold on to all of it. It's all going to have value one day, or it has sentimental value, and therefore it's worth keeping around. It's interesting that my parents are still together when they have such very different mentalities. But I think it's because they are looking for that token of the opposite, the yin in one another's yang. Because my mom, left to her own devices, simply won't do anything. If you're really deep in the thrifter mentality, that like you need to hoard safety, you need to hoard feelings of comfort, you need to just be in your space, in your element at all times. You never really find yourself pushing for more than what you have. And I don't know where my mom would be, if my dad didn't have like a good job and paying for like a nice, comfortable living for the two of them. I assume she would have a job or something, but I don't really know. I don't know where she would be at right now in life if he wasn't, managing, having a good job. Now, on the other hand, he is such a chaotic person, he would never be able to, like, hold down a household and, like, his own emotional fortitude, like, he needs someone there to bounce off of, or else he will simply go insane. My dad, listening to his own self, listening to his own inner voice, quickly go insane. And I don't think that they're so good at communicating with one another that they really complement each other like as well as I'm making it sound by making this analogy. I'm just saying this is how their marriage has survived for so long. Is that in spite of the fact that they actually are pretty fucking terrible at communicating with one another, they make up for one another's flaws in this specific way. My dad will take the risks that will make things better, but he's also been tempered a bit by the expectations of creating a consistency in certain, aspects of lifestyle and environment that'll keep my mom happy, That's the balance. Now, between me and Bird, in our relationship, both of us have a pretty even mix of gambler mentality and thrifter. Well, it's really just both. It's like an even combination. In my case, it's because my parents, I've literally studied what both of them are doing, and I see the viability in both strategies. And so it's like, I feel like I take huge overarching risks, but very few incidental risks. And when I do take incidental risks, I usually fail. Like, for instance, if I was trying to do something really physical, like to show off, I'll probably hurt myself. That's what I would consider an incidental risk. Like something that just comes up and you're like, oh shit, maybe I could also do that. Like, no, I should not also do that. I should stick to what I already said I was going to do. That's what works out best. Because I'm going to take enough tangents as it is. It's going to be hard enough for me to just get done what I said I was going to do, much less trying to tack on showing off, Uh, Bird, on the other hand, is great at those little incidental risks. He can definitely show off. He could definitely do some kind of fun little thing, make everybody go, whoa. You know, he could set himself on fire or whatever, put it out, act like it didn't hurt. You know, like he's that type. He can do the little fun, that seems risky, I'm going to do it, you know. But it's only because he's really good at calculating the risk on those kinds of incidental things. And I'm not. Bird has a lot of experience with doing those things, and he does not take, he never hurts himself not on purpose. He hurts himself all the time. Well, I shouldn't say that. When he's working, he'll hurt himself not on purpose because he works too hard. But when doing his own thing, it's if he hurts himself, he knew he was going to, and he was just okay with it. If I hurt myself, I definitely wasn't trying to do that. I definitely fucked up the execution. I definitely hurt myself. And but in more of a broad overarching sense, Bird is much more conservative, much more like, well, I'm just going to keep doing what we're doing because I can't imagine what it would look like if I tried to change things, you know? And I am much more like, I'm imagining another scenario and thinking that scenario looks better, you know? And as long as Bird's along for it with me, I'm down to go take that on. I hope talking in this level of abstraction isn't like so confusing it's impossible to parse what I'm saying. I've been talking for 20 minutes. Nobody's said shit in that whole time in the chat. I might as well be muted as far as I know. But I'm really on one this morning, I feel like. I mean, I'm drinking at 10 a.m. in 9 a.m. in an empty park full of goose shit. I should mention the floor is just covered in goose shit everywhere. So much goose shit everywhere. Got some goose shit in my sandals earlier. Ugh. Just walking down to the water. I'll show you that in a moment. Thank you for saying that you're listening, ideas. And die anywhere else. I appreciate it. I just have to sometimes like pulse check, make sure everyone's alive, you know? I see the number that says 12 people are here, but I'm like, who are they? Are they real? Being from old internet, like, this, I know, I'm sure maybe I've mentioned this somewhere, but like, it's a underappreciated aspect of my personality, how much the comments matter to me. Because when I was an anime blogger, I literally just convinced myself that all the views were bots. Because I'd get like 100 views on a post but no comments, and I'd be like, well, how do I know that any of those were real people? Like, that could have all been bot views. And so I started making like calls to action in my post that would, you know, make people leave comments. And, you know, now I do the same thing on live streams. So just, I like to know somebody's there. Because otherwise, I feel like I'm talking to nobody. And I'm talking to nobody most of the time anyways. I'm already in a constant dialogue with myself. I don't need to do it in a public forum if nobody's listening, you know. Shout out to everybody else in the chat. Listening from Japan. Whoa, nice. What part of Japan? Outdoors, indoors? You, some like tiny little apartment or foot of Mount Fuji doing a Yuru camp? Curious. And Portugal. I don't know anything about Portugal except for the band Portugal the Man. That must be pretty annoying that band exists for people actually from Portugal. Yeah, on the Gambler and the Thrifter, I feel I've been to some casinos. I've been around gamblers. They've all got this thinking in their head that there's like a level of big break that will like end it, that will make it so this doesn't have to go on anymore. And the reality is that never happens until the day you hit your like thrift ceiling. A man who never hit his thrift ceiling, Drake. Drake has not hit a thrift ceiling. Drake is stuck in gambler mentality to the extent I mean, if you didn't watch all my Drake and Kendrick coverage, or you haven't kept up with that beef, this might be a little bit confusing to follow what I'm talking about. But Drake, a man with $500 million, has made considerably more than that and spent it gambling on unfathomable amounts of money that none of us will ever even consider having, much less putting up for gamble and losing. But he gambles in more than just literal, like, money gambling through owning, like, preposterously expensive property, like having new properties built just to be the most expensive property, the highest value property in their areas, you know, like taking all these immediate, super high risk gambles. And when some of those pay off, it makes you look like a big winner. But people from the outside can't see all the losses, and they don't understand. Like, say you've got $500 million, but you've actually lost $20 billion, you know? Like, is that a big winner or a big loser? I mean, if they're enjoying life, but how much money do you have to spend to enjoy life? Is life enjoyable if you have to be constantly at, like, the most high stakes level of gambling imaginable? Like, who are you trying to impress? What do you get out of it, you know, at that level? It's hard for me to understand that feeling of, like, I have to be number one or to have the biggest and the most. There's a dog suddenly. Hold on. Turn camera. That's just a dog. No leash. Walking around. Where'd he come from? Who's the owner? Whose house is he from? No idea. Dog in the park. Love to see it. Hope he's friendly. That's the first thing to join me out here on this fine morning. This fine late July, muggy, but actually very nice out right now. It's here in Virginia, southeastern coastal Virginia. It's actually pretty nice out. I'm sure it won't stay this way. It's either going to rain really hard soon or get really hot soon. One or the other. Is it $500,000 or $500 million? $500 million. Drake has $500 million. Sorry if I said the other thing. Drake is one of the richest musicians of all time. Even still, he's only half as rich as, like, Taylor Swift or Jay-Z or anybody who, like, knows how to use their money better than Drake does, you know. Again, you can combine thrifter mentality and gambler mentality, but it's all about how fucking smart are the bets you make. How good are you at gambling? And there's different types of gambling. There's gambling where it's literally rigged against you, which is any casino. And then there's gambling against, like, your friends at the poker table. And that's where it's much more psychological. There's still risk. There's still a lot of luck involved. But if you know how to play well over the course of enough hands, you'll ultimately win out the game. And I think that the people who are, like, really good business people, you know, the Warren Buffetts, the Mark Zuckerbergs, Elon Musk and Ye are both, like, gamblers of the most, like a degree nobody even comprehends. And so, like, they basically get given the opportunity to make bad bets that will fuck up tremendous amounts of money, but they keep getting to do it because if they do succeed, whoever they succeeded in the name of is now rich. And they have the opportunity to either fuck that up for themselves or stay rich, you know? Probably they're going to fuck it up for themselves. Probably they're just creating a chain reaction of people fucking up. So I would say don't back every random Ye or Elon Musk idea, because chances are, even if you succeed off of the back of that, unless you are a genius, unless you're JPEG Mafia, who I do believe could get something out of meeting Ye and hanging out with them, maybe don't do it. He's not even investing in Ye. He's investing in himself by hanging out with Ye and learning picking the important parts of the brain out, you know? Anyway, I don't need to sit here and stand JPEG Mafia. I do have to piss, so I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to go over there and find somewhere to pee. I don't know where that dog went. I hope he doesn't attack me. Actually, I don't even need to mute, because you can just listen to the birds and shit, the wind and the crickets. I'm back. On this gambler and this thrifter dichotomy that I'm building here as an intellectual experiment, I guess, a thought thing. I think as a gambler, it's always important you have the mentality of, I'm definitely going to win. You might suspect that it's possible you won't, but you pretty much have to go into every gamble betting on yourself. Like before you're betting on the game, you're betting on yourself to win the game. So I think that the gambler mentality has a certain optimism to it, an innate optimism. And the thrifter mentality has an innate pessimism of like, we're going to run out. I'm going to lose. There's not going to be enough for everybody, you know? Got to hold on to what I got. And like, both of them are wrong and right, which is why I struggle with this so much in my own life, with this dichotomy where I will look at my situation sometimes and I'll feel like I could take a huge risk that would massively change my situation, but I don't know if it would be for the better or like there's reasons to think it could make it better. There's reasons to think it could make it worse. But I want the one that would be better, you know, I want to be in the better reality, but I also don't want to be in the worse reality. This is usually what stops people from making a clear decision, is thinking both of these things are possible. It's what keeps you out of the gambler mentality, because you won't likely make a bet if you don't think there's pretty good odds that you'll win. But it can also be what takes you out of the thrifter mentality if you're like, well, my situation sucks badly enough that, you know, the promise of something that could be better is worth more than staying where I am. You know, at least I'll be energized by making a new decision, being in a new place, trying new things, you know? Although that can be really damaging if all of that sucks and then, you know, you're fucked and you're in a shitty situation maybe you can't even get out of. And then things just get worse. So, you know, you got to be careful. Risks are dangerous. They can be very, very dangerous. And if you don't think you're generally good at taking those risks, You shouldn't. Now, for me, as a thrifter, my mentality tends to be that I use everything at my disposal. Whatever is available to me, I'm going to try to take advantage of that. So, for example, this park that I am in right now. I am here because I did not want to be at home, at my parents' house. There's many reasons. For one thing, the layout of the house, it's strange to describe. It's a small one-story house, but it has a very cavernous ceiling, so it feels a lot bigger than it is. It feels like you're in a big space. And I mean, floor space wise, each room has a lot of floor space, but there's not a lot of rooms, if that makes sense. So you've got the open plan living room / kitchen / dining room. That's all just one giant room where my granddad sits in a big chair and he watches a big TV all day long that he's awake. He's asleep for most of the day. But for the 8 or so hours, 8 to 10 hours he's awake, he's got the big TV on. And directly behind that TV is where my parents' bedroom is. And there's a bathroom attached to their bedroom that's the only consistently usable bathroom in the house, because the other one is dedicated to my granddad and he's got a special seat, on it. So everybody's constantly having to go through my parents' room to get to the bathroom. Super weird. I don't know what they were fucking thinking when they built this house or bought this house, but whatever. There's a sizable garage, which is where my mom hangs out and smokes weed all day. And so otherwise, I would do a lot of filming and shit out there, but she will literally sit in the garage for most of the day because she doesn't want to hang out around my granddad and end up getting into arguments with him. He's 90. He doesn't take care of himself very well, so she's always trying to convince him to let her take care of him, and he's like, rah, 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 rah. She can't take it, so she'll go hang out in the garage all day. And my dad works from home in an office room that I then take over pretty much as soon as he's done working to do my live streams. Sometimes I stream during the morning like this, but lately it's been really fucking hot and humid. I haven't really wanted to go outside. And also, people have stopped paying me when I'm not at a computer, because ever since I introduced the gimmick of watching stuff for money, people know that they can get more out of their dollar than just asking me to rant about something for a couple minutes. So it's very unlikely that I make money doing morning streams. So I've kind of concentrated everything on the afternoon. But this has left me with a very lopsided kind of day where I feel like I'm not really doing anything until the late afternoon. All I'm really thinking about is the stream. I'm thinking about what am I going to talk about on the stream? What am I going to do? What are we going to watch? Who's going to be there? Who am I trying to appeal to? What should I add? I'm just sitting there trying to think about my stream. And sometimes I'll do other auxiliary work, maybe I'll record some rap vocals for some songs during the day, or I'll do some video editing or update some shit about the channel, or, backroom stuff, talk on my Discord, organize stuff with editors, all the little background shit YouTubers gotta do. But while I'm trying to just think about my stream, smoke my weed, listen to my tunes, I've always got shit going on around me. My mama coming in, ranting about Donald Trump. Oh! If I could afford to pay her to not talk about Trump, I would. But I think it would cost $1,000 a day. Maybe she could do $500. I think the symbolic power of $1,000 would be necessary every day to make my mom not talk about Trump. I can't afford that. I'll never probably be able to afford to pay my mom $1,000 a day not to talk about Donald Trump. Just to not say his name. If I could go a day without hearing the name Donald Trump, holy fucking shit. oh, I feel like I say those words less than most people, and I kind of have to scoot them out like in a quick little, like, I'm so sick of hearing the name. Because all of his power comes from how often people say his fucking name. So to me, going full Trump derangement syndrome and not shutting the fuck up about him is just giving him exactly what he wants. Especially when you sound increasingly deranged and schizophrenic trying to explain your problems with the current situation. Just let it go. My recommendation to anybody dealing with this: take a deep breath and forget the fuck about all of it. Forget that you've ever heard the phrase politics. Forget that any of that has ever happened. And go to the park. I'm alone. Look at how big this fucking park is. I'm alone here. I think a lot about this. There's so much space in America. It's such a huge, open country. And no one's using it. They're preserving it for use. They're not using it. It's the hoarder mentality. It's the thrifter mentality. We did a lot of gambling in building this country, and now we're scared to gamble any further because we're pretty satisfied with what we've got. But that satisfaction's been taken advantage of to take away the ability to get more and slowly whittle at what we have. And eventually, they'll either figure out how to take exactly how much, like as much as we could possibly provide. There must be a limit to how useful an individual human is in the big picture. Like, obviously, most people are considered, like, expendable by the billies, the big old billionaires. Most of us are not seen as, like, we're just statistical numbers to them. But, like... fuck, I lost track of what I was trying to say. I got so distracted by describing billionaires as billies. I was like, well, how did that spring out of my head? Is that my euphemism treadmill for billionaires? Keep them from shooting me by making up code words to describe them? Whatever. Eventually they will figure out, like, exactly the, like, worth of keeping humans alive. Like, right now, they probably think it's not worth it, but they can't do anything about it without it being, like, a problem. But if they can find a way to, like, not kill people, but milk every dollar they can out of them being alive, like, having to keep them alive, I really do expect us all to be on blood farms in the future. Like, my expectation is you'll have one IV that puts everything you need into your body, and another IV that drains everything they want out of your body, a headset on your head, and you're just in a virtual la-la land. And, like, that's going to be everybody. That's going to be the state of everyone who's not born into royalty. And, like, the billionaires, the modern royalty, they will, like, just become actual vampires. Like, they will, through the consumption of blood, probably evolve. Like, consuming other humans' blood as a regular practice, no matter how you do it, has not been tried before, I don't think, like, successfully in human history. So if they can find a way to constantly transplant, if the rich can find a way to constantly transplant poor people's blood into their bodies by, like, keeping them alive like cows, but unlike cows, we don't like grass, we like virtual headset. We'll probably just be cows in the headset. Like, most people will probably choose to be a cow and just live as a cow inside the virtual reality. This sounds kind of nice to me. I'm selling myself on this technology. I can just be a cow grazing in a field, thinking about fucking nothing. They'll put me in the hills of, like, San Jose as a cow in the headset, and they can have all my blood. I won't fucking need it for anything. I'll be laying in a bed being a cow. going moo, moo, moo. This is where we are headed, and I don't think there's much we can do to stop it. But since I'm here now before this happens, I'm going to take advantage of everything I've got as a person alive in this moment in America before the billionaires owned it all. The brief little interim where a schizoaffective, autistic trans person could hang out in a park by themselves and chat to 13 people from fucking literally all over the world about their expectations for the future of humanity. I've never been able to figure out how many of you agree with this idea. Like, I talk about it. I've had some people say that it's interesting. No one's told me whether they're like, this is absolutely what's going to happen, or if they're like, you're talking crazy shit. We're not going to be blood bags on a blood farm. What the fuck are you talking about? Maybe I'm literally so abstract. If you have HIV, you're screwed. No, they're going to want the HIV blood too, because they're going to figure out a use for all of it. That's the thing. So here's the other thing about thriftiness and gambling, right? Science is thrifty. Science is like, let's understand what's already here better so that we can use it for more. Whereas, like, religion is very gambling. I'm making my decisions now based on the idea that, you know, there's gonna be a further reward in the future. I'm putting my chips in. I'm putting my money in the collection tin so I can buy my way into heaven. That is the gambler mentality. Religious. Thrifty is like, I don't know. Probably nothing's waiting for me ahead, so I should just make things better for the people who are going to have to live in the world I leave behind. This is me really romanticizing these two, or particularly romanticizing the thrifter mentality. But I do think, values-wise, I fall into the thrifter mentality, which is why I do not take the types of gambles that would really help you to advance, because usually they involve some level of fucking somebody over. Like, usually it has to be some kind of competition. It's you and your people took from someone else and their people. And you can do it, you can build yourself up in a way that nobody really has to feel bad or has to suffer about it. But at the end of the day, someone's probably losing something for someone else to have like a heavy gain, because usually gains come from slow, steady work. You know, like, think about, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Nah, all my examples are too far flung. It would take too much explanation. My point is that, you know, you can very slowly build yourself up, make a little more, but getting better at what you do. But if you want to, like, jump ahead, that means you got to take a spot that was already there. You have to take something that already existed. Like, you can't just make it happen out of nowhere. There had to be a precedent for why it was possible for this thing to happen, you know? A lot of the times, big successful risks look more measured than they are, and vice versa. Like, sometimes it looks like, oh, this person must have been brilliant, and, like, really they were just incredibly lucky. And sometimes it's like, this person must have been incredibly lucky, but really they were incredibly brilliant. Like Kendrick Lamar going number one twice off of his Drake disses, predictable. That was not something I would consider a gamble. Kendrick it would have been a gamble to go after Drake at any point before that, which is why he always said Basically, Kendrick Lamar has, over the decades, dropped a lot of obvious subliminal bars about Drake, accusations at Drake, things that should be about Drake, but he never said they were. And I always looked down on that. I always looked down on Kendrick taking subliminals at Drake because I saw it like, well, if you really fucking have a problem with this dude, say something. And Drake was taking subliminals at Kendrick the same way over the decades. Stuff that doesn't have to be about them, but everybody thought it was about them, you know? But it's because ultimately their existences helped one another. Kendrick would not be as successful and famous as he was if Drake had not been as successful and famous as he was, and vice versa. They fed into one another's success. And Kendrick never wanted to roll the dice on losing that, because if he lost that battle, if the culture decided to pick Drake over Kendrick, then he would have been crushed and Drake would have only gotten more powerful. But he waited until he had the culture's blessing. And the only way he could get that is if Drake dissed him directly. Whoever shot first, the other person was going to ruin their shit. You know? But somebody had to shoot first. Because culturally, you can't just come at somebody and destroy them out of nowhere. Because everybody's going to go, why? You know, why did you do that? Why did you just destroy Drake? You know? But as soon as Drake made it a ploy for relevance, because Drake is declining in relevance, and he starts asking himself, what can I do that's going to get the most attention on me? And the answer to that is start beef with Kendrick. You know, this guy that has always been a thorn in my side as the critically beloved counterpoint to my massive success, you know? And so the two of them going head to head, you know, like, I understand what Drake thought, how Drake thought it would benefit him, because as a gambler, he's thinking, if I win this, if I take this quick shot and I win, I'm back on the climb. But Kendrick had just been sitting on this as a sure thing for like a decade. He was like, as soon as this guy pulls the trigger on me, I win. That's it. All he has to do is pull the trigger and I win. And he knew that. And he had been saying it was true. And he knew it was true because he's not somebody who gambles. He takes calculated risks. He gambles a lot more than I do. He gambles a lot more than you do. But he doesn't gamble the way Drake does, you know. Calculated risks. Slow build. Kendrick took a long time to reach the point where he could be double number one off of Drake disses. But only he could have done it. Only he could have done it. And the result of that is the whole world is different afterwards. And it's not detectable for everybody. It doesn't mean something to everybody. But for the people who understand what's happened, it's a definitive cultural shift where things are just different now. We now live in a world where you can have a number one single where you call a guy a pedophile. That's pretty much the that's the main like obvious visible part of it. The trickle effect of that is tremendous. The other day, I was listening to a video from Justin Hunt out in the garage in the morning, smoking my weed, you know, listening to a video about how Schoolboy Q was banned from Vancouver. And the rest of TDE apparently cannot fly into Canada because Drake has basically told the government that there's too much smoke surrounding this situation and these guys can't be allowed in because who knows what it could lead to, sort of thing. You know, lying and implying. And so I'm watching this video about this, and my dad's like, oh, is this about that Kendrick-Drake beef? And I'm like, yeah. And he said something really weirdly dismissive about it. Like, you know, like, I'm tired of all that, or something like, something to that effect. And I said, like, why? He's like, it's just so childish. And I was like, what? childish? Like, what do you mean by that? I think that's what I said, was, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, it's like, you know, high school shit. And I said, I'm pretty sure in high school nobody ever accused anybody else of being a pedophile. My dad went, oh yeah, they did all the time. And I said, accuse one another of being a pedophile? They were in high school. How could they be pedophiles? And he was like, well, stuff like it. I said, I don't think there is anything like it. I don't think there's something like calling someone. This is not a battle about two guys dissing one another. If it was, I wouldn't care about it. It wouldn't be newsworthy. It wouldn't be world-changing. It wouldn't be a massive cultural impact if this whole thing was Drake calling Kendrick short and Kendrick calling Drake diva. Like, that would not be a cultural moment. It's trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. That's the cultural moment. That's the part that matters. That's what created everything that's come since Not Like Us. Euphoria would have been, I mean, it was a big pop moment. It was, oh my God, Drake and Kendrick are going at it. But like, Euphoria and 616 in LA came out, and then I went back to my day. You know, like, I listened to them both a bunch of times, and then I went back to doing other things. Meet the Grams and Not Like Us came out, and it changed the way my month went. You know, like, it changed the kind of content. I followed 10 new YouTube channels. Like, culture changed. It's not something you could just call childish and be sick of it. This is about whether or not a predator with $500 million sees any social or legal ramification for human trafficking and cultural abuse, quite frankly. It's not fucking childish. You could call Drake childish. You could say that the fact that our culture requires a rap battle in order to give context to things that are happening in our world is childish, but that's because we have an infantilized culture. It's not fucking Kendrick's fault that he can't reach you to anything other than a funny rap verse. That's not his fault. It's not his fault that television hasn't reported on it at all. That the TV, if you just are watching TV, you could be forgiven for not thinking there is a Kendrick and Drake beef. Because they're not talking about it. Nothing relevant to my parents is discussing this. Everything relevant to me is discussing it. It's that dismissiveness is something I really can't stand. I tweeted about this right after this happened. So if you're wondering who I was tweeting about, it's about that. I was saying I can't believe how dismissive people can be. My parents do this a lot with music as well, where like I'll be listening to something and just like the first remark will be like, ugh, put on something else. And like oftentimes I can't really tell what was wrong with it. Like I might play 25 songs in a row and I can't tell if they're enjoying or not enjoying any of them until such a point as one is so aggravating that it is remarked upon negatively. And from my perspective, it's like, well, that's a song I listen to every day, just like all the other ones I just played you. What was different? And the explanation I get will always be some kind of like really aggressive, like, just sounds like chaos. Just sounds like a guy shouting. It just sounds like a guy talking. Okay, is that a bad thing? Is it like, are you suffering to listen to a guy talking? What the fuck are you, why is that bad music? What do you fucking mean by that, you know? And I get trapped in this because I don't want to like fight with people over, I'm trying to be understanding. You don't like the music, cool, I'll change it, you know? But why is it never like, hey, could you play a different song? I'm not in the mood for this right now. It's like, oh God, how can you stand this obnoxious racket? And I'm like, I don't know, dude, I like it. I fucking can't stand listening to you speak, but I somehow can listen to this. Seems a lot less, and it's got tune to it, you know. It's actually the lyrics are meaningful, unlike the shit, you know. I get worked up. I get upset. I don't like when people insult the things I like out of pocket for no reason, with no remorse. You know? I'm sure I've done it to plenty of people, so I know I deserve it. But even when I've been hypercritical of stuff, I have always had the stance that I like that people like things. I was happy that people liked Sword Art Online. I said so in my video about it, you know? I'm not trying to take it away from anybody else, but I feel like when I'm sitting in a room by myself listening to music, and then someone comes into that room and starts talking to me about Donald Trump, or complaining about the music I'm listening to, my skeleton wants to jump through my skin and out of my body and just leave itself limp upon the ground and not move. And see if that response offers an explanation of, is reasonable. Yeah. You feel bad for me come November? November will be the great Band-Aid ripping off of it actually happened, and they don't have to fucking doom spiral about. It's only when you feel like you could do something but you know you can't that you really get the doom feeling, you know? Like, today, again, I really didn't want to be at home because aside from the fact that through most of the day I struggle to find a good place to hang out inside of the house when my dad's working and my mom's hanging out in the garage and my granddad's watching the big TV in the middle of the house, there's not really like a quiet space to be alone where no one's going to complain about your music or talk to you about Trump. I don't have my own car, you know. Bird takes the car to work. I could drive him to and from work and have the car, but my parents have a car that they don't use that much. So I was like, this is the time to use what's at my disposal, you know? Now, if it was raining horribly, if it was, way too hot outside, I might not come to the park. But I was blessed that today is a nice day out and I could just leave. So I didn't want to listen. My parents were bickering at like 6 in the morning. I woke up at 4 to get Bird up for work. So he was at work by 5 in the morning. And by like 6 in the morning, my parents were bickering about nonsense. Actually, I think it started because of my music. Because my dad works out in the garage. And as he put it, typically he would listen to his own music through headphones. But because I get up early and I sit out in the garage playing music, he was like, I have to listen to your music. And then he got frustrated because he didn't like one of the songs I was playing, and it put him him and my mom had already been, tit for tatting, and then he heard a song that set him off, and then the two of them got even more argumentative, and I was just like, why are y'all in a powder keg mindset like this? Like, why are you ready to go off? And the only explanation I can really think of is the fucking news, because these two people sit around and listen to they literally listen to people telling them that they are doomed every day. Like, my mom thinks that when Trump becomes president, he's going to make it illegal to not have one of the two genders, or something, that basically there's going to be LGBT extermination squads walking the streets in fucking jackboots or something. I don't live in a city, I'm not worried about this shit. I'm not fucking worried about... When lockdowns happened, I went outside. I'm not fucking worried about what the government's going to tell me I'm allowed to do. I don't give a shit. If the government tells me I'm not allowed to live, they can kill me. They're gonna do it to everyone eventually. Or they're not. I'm not part of the fucking decision-making process. I don't have any money. So it doesn't fucking matter to me. None of the politics, none of it, I can't affect it. I cannot do anything. Trying to do something would get me killed because I would not be willing to play ball with the powers that be. I would have to sell out my morals in order to achieve a level of power that would let me make decisions. And I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to have any power and I'm not going to make any decisions. What I do have the power to do is use what's at my disposal. And this is where, again, I feel very lucky. I feel lucky to be... I do feel lucky to I hate white people, but I feel lucky to be white because it, again, it caused me a lot less problems than it would to be any other color in America. So, you know, I can't say it's like not a privilege, you know, it certainly feels like one. I don't think I couldn't get by if I wasn't white, but I think it would be a little harder. I'm lucky to live in America, in the United States, where I can be openly gay, openly trans. It's not easy to be openly trans. It doesn't make me fit into the people around me very much, but I can. I'm allowed. I won't be killed, won't be kicked out of almost anywhere, won't even be mocked in most places. Most people will never say anything to my face. Most people are low-key terrified of saying anything negative about trans people. And they should be. Because otherwise, I'm going to cry. You don't want to see a girl cry. Especially not a girl with a beard. You know, it's not going to be a cute cry. Anyway. I feel lucky that my parents have a car that they don't really use. So even if they're being horribly obnoxious all morning, I can take their car and go to the park. I'm also grateful this park exists. I had no idea this park existed. I simply took the car and started driving south. And I had a map. I'm thankful that I live in the absolute pinnacle era of map technology that has ever existed. I can't even... My life would just not be what it is without maps. You know? Google Maps in particular. So even though I hate Google as a corporation, they also did unlock the ability for me to exist within reality at all. I make all my money through Google. This is Google. What we're doing right now is Google. So I make all my money through Google, and I do all of my travel through Google. So I owe a lot to Google? No, I don't owe anything to Google. They benefit from my existence. It's a mutual benefit. They get all my data, I get all their data. You know, I think humanity and Google have a decent give and take relationship. At least I do. But I'm probably fucking somebody else over. I know I'm fucking somebody else over by using an iPhone. I know that. I know this iPhone is made of some kind of conflict mineral. I know somebody is living a really shitty life dedicated mostly to getting me an iPhone to live a great life. So that's a level of privilege that, like, most Americans can't even think about that without their brain short-circuiting and telling them, like, well, you know, life's fucked up. And I'm like, no, not really. You are fucked. I'm fucked up. I am fucked up. I put the value of my own personal ability to feel good above pretty much everything else. You know, watching Shimoon, the anime, it was seeing Airu literally, like, willing to murder anyone just for the chance to not have to pick a gender. I was like, wow. This is a great metaphor for America. Like, as long as I get to do whatever I want and have total freedom, the cost can be anything. And I'll just keep raking up that cost until somebody kills me. Somebody gets angry enough to kill me. And as it stands, America pretty much laughs at anybody who thinks they can try. Because they all suck at it. So, you know, I off the back of all the suffering in the world, I get to enjoy being in the park, listening to crickets. Alone. Totally alone. It might as well exist just for me to have done this. Like, in a historical sense, this could be the most important thing that's ever happened at this park, and not even be very important. But, like, the fact that 12 or 13 people from around the world witnessed it just means, like, it's a bigger deal than anything else that ever happened here since the building of the park, you know? Since there was a decision made to put a park here. Or maybe there's been, like, the most epic party ever here, and, like, a bunch of people remember this park. I don't know. Kind of feels like a park no one's ever been to, if I'm being quite honest, except for whoever mowed it. It must have been mowed pretty recently, because it rains constantly, and grass ain't that long. So I'd say it got mowed, like, this week or last week. But nobody's using this park. It's fucking rainy and shitty every day. The way I found this park, I was driving south, looking at Google Maps, seeing what, you know, I basically decided, as soon as I see an interstate exit that has a cool looking park next to it, I'll take that exit. And so this exit, it actually had a park on each side of the exit. But there was also, I could see, like, an inlet park next to the water that was, like, deeper into a neighborhood. Like, I'd have to go into a neighborhood to get to it. And so initially I was checking out the mainstream parks, but those parks were all full of people and shit. They're pretty big. They're full of people and shit. This park is not only in a neighborhood, there's not even a parking lot for this park. The only way into this park is you have to walk or ride a bike down a, like, quarter-mile stretch of road from in the neighborhood into this park. Which, me knowing people, especially Americans, I can't imagine almost anybody comes to this park. I mean, there's an entrance from, like, the cul-de-sac on the other side of the park into it. But there are so few houses nearby. Like, nobody's going to drive here because there's not a parking spot. And to walk here would be quite a distance to bring your kid to then have them play at a park. You have to have a real outgoing kid to want to bring them to this park. This whole gazebo existing here, like, is somebody throwing parties in this nestled away park? Like, who's having their birthday here? Like, maybe one kid in this whole neighborhood maybe ever will have a birthday. It's just such a... It's crazy that this is even here. It's so tucked away, I can't imagine it being used much, but it's a gorgeous little park. And I only know it's here because I saw it on Google and went, oh, that looks interesting. I'll check that out. Let's head on down to the water. Because, like I said, I know I'm going to be walking in some geese shit doing this, because this park is covered in geese shit. So I guess this place is really for the geese. Like, rather than people, the geese definitely hang out here, because they have shit all over the place. So it's more of a geese park, geese habitat than a human area, I guess. All right, I'm gonna turn the camera around. Oh, it's all zoomed in. Hold on. So that's where I was. I was standing in that gazebo just now, right? And then I walked over here and, oh shit, look at this. We're at a fucking riverside. It looks like there's even a kind of a beach down there, like sandy beach. Let's go check that out. Whoa! Spilled a little bit of beer on myself. Falling about 3 feet just there. Okay. Oh, a big old pipe in the way. Let's go under the pipe, yeah? Under the pipe and through the woods to Grandmother's Beach we go. All right, we're here at the water. This doesn't look like I could stand on it without sinking, so I'm not going to stand on it. What a tiny beach. It literally is just this. It doesn't go any further in either direction. It's just this little tiny stretch of beach. That's adorable. All right, let's go back up. I don't want to sink into the sand. Oy. Under the pipe. Ugh. This stick is stuck to my foot. Get the fuck off of me. There you go. Okay. Now I gotta climb up this. And then also, when I took a piss earlier, I discovered there's a path. So let's go to the path. You wouldn't notice this. The cicadas are trying to scare me away, but I'm not afraid of some cicadas. Check this out. Suddenly a path. And it kind of perimeters this river, lake, whatever this is, body of water. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm feeling lucky that I get the opportunity to see this, because like this is a rich neighborhood, not like rich, but definitely upper middle class. Definitely a lot more than I could afford, which is nothing. So tremendously more than I could afford. Wow, this is awesome. I did not expect this to lead out to like a peak like this. Okay. So we've got a second beach. Again, I'm not gonna walk on that because it looks like I would sink. I'm kind of on this precipice here. All right, neat. We explored the path. Yeah, you know, sometimes you've all heard when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And that's where I feel like I'm at right now. You know, like I have a stubborn refusal to have a bad time. Like if I start catching myself having a bad time, I become really obsessed with like, how do I stop this from happening? Like, how do I not be having a bad time anymore? Do I need to change scenery? Do I need to change what I'm doing? Do I need drugs or alcohol? Like, what can I do to stop this bad time from happening and turn it into a good time? That's always my mentality. And sometimes like a bad time is more, you know, getting back to that dichotomy of incidental and more broad sweeping that I was talking about with decision making and risks. There's also like broad moods and incidental moods, you know, like drop your ice cream, incidental depletion of mood. You know, you feel worse. Maybe there's a bright side. Maybe you're in such a good mood it doesn't bother you that much, but you're just like a little bit worse, a little bit down-tuned, you know. Whereas like feeling like the day-to-day situation that you found yourself in sucks and there's nothing you can do to change it, that's an overarching sadness, you know. And I try to avoid either one. You know, if something makes me sad in the moment, I try to find something that will make me happy in the next moment. If I feel like the overarching state of my life is not good, I have to do something about it. I have to figure out like what can I do to change things, you know, what can I do to evolve this situation so that it's not so shitty anymore. When it comes to dealing with my mom's Trump derangement syndrome, for instance, I think the only option is really to just get her interested in other shit, but it's really hard because she's got like no attention span and she doesn't take an interest in things. She doesn't like innately get interested. She has to be like made interested. You have to be like overflowing with passion for the thing and be able to tell it in a compelling way. You know, like you really, my mom's not somebody you can just have an easy conversation with, you know. You gotta be dramatic if you wanna get a word in over her. And she's gonna ask a lot of questions. She's gonna poke holes in everything you say. You know, if you use the wrong words, she's gonna pick on the words. She's gonna get confused. So, how do you deal with that? How do you get somebody who's like that to stop thinking about Donald Trump? One strategy I've employed is showing her lots of pictures of cute animals. Just opening up Instagram, show her some wombats, you know, show her some beavers, show her some fucking capybaras, show her some cats. She's a big time cat lady. The only thing she thinks about other than Trump is her cats. She talks to the cats like they're people. She's always hanging out with the cats. So engaging with the cats, that would probably help, you know, if I showed more interest in the cats. I don't necessarily want to get super involved with the cats, but, you know, they're less annoying than Donald Trump. What kind of strategies do you guys have? How do you get somebody to shut the fuck up about Donald Trump? Like my dad, he'll come in and he'll be like, huh, those fucking idiots did whatever. And then he'll just like shut up about it, you know? Conversation with him always goes great. It rarely happens, but he's always in his element. He likes to keep to his own shit, but he gets really stressed out about anything that takes away from that. Anything that gets in the way, any little snag. He's very OCD, so if anything interrupts the exact flow of what he expects to happen, it's not good. So with my dad, it's more about staying out of his way. Making sure that nothing you do is accidentally getting in his way and going to stress him out, you know? Just let him be OCD in his own little corner, his own little lane. Just tell him you're making money. As long as he hears you're making money, everything's fine. With my mom, there's not like something you can really do that's gonna like impress her or make her think you're like being alive. That's all she cares. Like, you're still alive? Cool, you did it. Perfect. You know? So it's like, okay, but how do I fix your shit? How do I get you to stop caring about Donald Trump? How do I get you to think about things that will make you happy or benefit you or maybe make some money or like literally fucking anything other than caring about Donald Trump? Anything. I'll take anything. I don't care. I can't think of something I would find more annoying than being obsessed with Donald Trump. You're less concerned with being happy than you are with not feeling bad. To me, those are kind of in the same... I mean, like, out and out happiness, like giddiness, like excitement. You know, I feel that sometimes. But, yeah, on, like, a moment-to-moment level, I'm usually competing between, like, melancholy, perturbed, and, like, driven. Like, I think my feeling of positivity is, like, I've got an idea. You know, like, I feel good when I'm like, okay, I've been thinking about this thing, and like, I feel like I can explain it really well. Or if I'm like, oh, I've got a really neat idea. Or like, ooh, I've got some cool lyrics in mind. And, like, when I get into that zone where I'm really, like, enjoying what I'm doing, time passes so quickly. Like, if I start writing bars into my phone, I stop thinking about the passage of time. So it might be that 50 minutes pass, and I feel like I'm inside of 1 minute, basically. Like, I'm just living inside of the minute when I started thinking about the lyrics until I'm done writing them. And it could be that I'm listening to other music, but for the most part, I'm blocking it out. You know, like, I'll block out the whole world and just be writing these lyrics for, like, until they're done. And after that happens, I'll almost feel like I'm waking up, like, from a dream. Like, I created another little life there, and I lived it, and now it's over, and I'm dead, you know, and now I'm back in the other life I was in before. That's what it feels like to finish, like, a project. Making a list can be like this for me. Like, the other day, I sat in the garage, and made a playlist that ended up being at a total, I think it's like 64 songs. So I was probably building this playlist for like 3 or 4 hours without really thinking about it. Like there was a point at which I realized I'd been doing this for like the whole morning, you know? Like, oh, it's like 2 o'clock now, and I've been building this playlist for as long as I can remember. And I like that. I like when I kind of go into a fugue state, do a thing, and then I come out the other side with a product. You know, like, oh, now I've got this playlist. Now I've got this thing I made. And especially if it's a playlist, I'm probably going to listen to it 100 fucking times. So I'm going to really enjoy the fruit of that labor, you know? If it's a video and like it makes me some money or gets some views or people talk about it, then it's like I keep reaping the benefits of having done that into the future. You know, if I introduce a bunch of people to a show and then 5 years later, everyone I know has seen that show and we all get to talk about it, that's sowing the seeds, reaping the fruit, you know? And I love that feeling of like, I just planted some seeds or just watered some seeds and they're growing good, you know? But everything in between that is ambivalence. Is like, oh, I don't know, maybe everything's awesome, maybe everything sucks. That all depends on whether or not I can come up with something to do in the next 5 minutes, you know? And then if those 5 minutes pass, I'm just like slightly more stressed until I find something to do. And this could be across an hour, it could be across a whole day, it could be across a year, as it was back when I was like 19, you know, and I just didn't do anything for like a year and stressed out about it the whole time, you know. Nowadays, if I catch myself not doing anything, I sit there like I have a channel dial, like trying to find, you know, in the static, what am I looking for? And if I'm left to my own devices, it's usually a song. Like if I'm just kind of moody and I'm by myself, I usually will just sit and listen to music and smoke until I find the song or album that is like I don't know, unlatches something in my mind and I can move on. Like I feel an emotion and I know that there's something that will make that emotion loose, but I can't find it right away. And so I'll spend like hours searching for it, like trying to understand, what is this emotion? How do I free this emotion out of me? And then at some point I find like a song and I'm like, oh, this was it. You know, this was the one. And then it all just kind of dissipates. And it's like, I'm not worried about that shit anymore, you know? Now I'm in the new me. The new me's got to find something to do. And then the new me goes and finds something to do, you know? But it can be a real process. And again, like, so if I'm by myself and I'm just doing it with music, that can be a problem, because if I don't find that music, if I'm just sitting there looking for it for hours and I don't realize how much time is passing and I'm just getting more and more like kind of stressed out about not being able to move on, at that point it usually requires somebody to come get me out of that, you know? And luckily, being in a relationship, I can't really stay in like that kind of like at some point, Bird's gonna get home and I'm gonna go, oh, Bird's here. I don't care about anything I was thinking about before. What are you up to? You know, what do you need? What can I do for you? Fuck me. What can I do for you? You know, that could be a great place to be if you could just erase concerning about yourself and what you're doing. Be worried about what somebody else is doing. You know. That's a kind of power I gained at some point, realizing, oh, just worry about other people, then you don't got to worry about yourself. But I don't always have someone around who can help with that, you know. As I've established, my parents are terrible listeners, so I don't really try to come to them with any kind of emotional stress or problems. They're just going to make it worse. I come to the internet sometimes. Sometimes y'all make it worse, but usually y'all make it better. Or at least give me the opportunity to vent until I feel better. And yeah, I don't have a lot of people in my world, honestly. I don't, because of the fact that, like, when I get into an emotional headspace, I don't really know how to communicate with anybody. So, like, this, as soon as I get to the part of a friendship where I would be where I'm gonna, like, start testing that friendship, usually it fails, and that person just kind of forgets I exist, or I forget we just kind of move on into the ether of reality. I'm good at disappearing from people's lives, is what I'm trying to say. And what's cool about the internet is that people will kind of check in with you, or they decide, as long as I keep publishing, as long as I keep being live, you all get to decide when you're in or out. But it creates this oddly controlled relationship where it's really hard to reach me if I'm not live, where it's very easy for me to turn my phone off and be totally unavailable to the world, no matter how many people want my attention, which I don't think is necessarily healthy. Again, I like that Bird will just eventually show up and pull me out of whatever I'm stuck in, and put me to something else, Sometimes somebody just needs to yank you out of where you are and put you where you need to be. And I feel like I'm always waiting for that on, like, a grander scale where, like, I always thought I would be scouted for something. Like, I guess when I was growing up, I thought the way that, like, people became culturally relevant, I guess, is that, like, you just kind of be out there being talented and cool, and then someone comes and scouts you and, like, puts you on a path towards something. And that's kind of true, but it's really more like people identify that you have figured something out, and then they start helping you to keep doing what you already figured out. They don't try to help you figure something out. Like, there's not somebody who's going to come along and tell you, oh, here's what you should be doing that would make you rich and famous. Sometimes maybe, but you have to really be putting yourself out there, like really putting yourself in front of people. They're not scouring the earth looking for someone to help make famous. They're looking for someone that's going to definitely become famous as long as they have the means at their disposal, like they're looking for somebody who they're going to go, oh, that person's going to make us a shitload of money if we can keep them from realizing how much money they're going to make without us. Or find somebody who's going to make you a shitload of money who does not have the means to reach anyone by themselves, but that as long as you're holding their reins, they're going to, But I just think you have to be a lot more already figured out before people take an interest in you than I had realized growing up, I've been on a fucking real tear. One of those mornings. One of those mornings where you're drinking in the park alone at 10:47 and live streaming. I don't think there are a lot of those mornings. It's one of those mornings, but it's not a type of morning most people know about. It's a very rare, unique brand of morning. I guess I would say that I came to this park for a sense of self-empowerment. I don't have a lot of money, so there's not really anything I could do that costs money. I only have the car for a certain amount of time, and even then it's an electric car, so I can only even take it a certain distance before it has to be charged. Again, if the weather wasn't permitting me to be out, I feel like I would just be stuck. I would find something to do. Maybe I would even just go to sleep. But ultimately, I looked at everything that was possible, everything that was possible to me given the circumstances, and said, I want to spend some time alone in a quiet place, talking to the internet and venting and not being bothered by anybody or their expectations or anything going on. Whatever I can get, whatever's nearby that I can get, I'm going to take advantage of it. And I feel very lucky that this park exists at all. Now, I didn't expect to find a space where I would feel comfortable just venting openly into the air for 100 minutes without really having to move. I feel incredibly lucky to have discovered this. Would I have discovered this if not for the painful experiences driving me out of the house to go find something nice to do? Undoubtedly improving my entire week, maybe my entire life henceforth. Making everything easier to deal with, improving my patience, my personal sense of zen. You have to go searching for it. You have to be like, I don't accept being sad today. I don't accept sitting around at a house I don't want to be at. I don't accept... I was willing to just go walk somewhere. If the car was... If I couldn't have taken the car, and even if it had been raining... I was getting ready to get myself rain geared up, but my proper shoes are in the car, Bird's car that he took to work. So when I realized I did not even have the shoes to go out in the rain, I was like, I've really disempowered myself to do anything. But then I realized it wasn't raining, and so I was empowered to do something. Again, taking every advantage possible. The second I confirmed it wouldn't rain anytime soon, I found somewhere beautiful to be. Just being in a beautiful place makes me happy. Makes everything, it greases the gears of living. All right. I've pretty much vented all my vent. I'm gonna go wander off and take a piss. If anybody has anything they want me to talk about, super chat it. Otherwise, I might end this when I get back, depending on how I'm feeling. You know, you could spend all day every day in the park, but as soon as you stay overnight, you're homeless. You're not allowed to be there. Fascinating. This space is so empty, and I'm sure it's like this most of every day and night. And it could hold hundreds of tents. It's tucked away into a nice neighborhood, and I'm sure that even if the people who live here don't use the park, if they saw someone using it, they would say something to the cops. America. Hey, a super chat from June for 199. Essentials for a good battle shonen story. I think the core is you have to have a great main character who's likable, whose goals you align with. They have to have some kind of clear goal. It doesn't have to be an epic overarching goal from the start, but they have to have clear goals. And they have to have a very a power that not only looks cool but also has a diverse range of what it can do. So I've often said that I think that like the reason One Piece is kind of the ultimate manga is that it has the ultimate manga protagonist. Because Luffy, being made of rubber, his body can transform in, practically any way that the author can imagine, and that allows him to do all these crazy warped perspective shots, where like he can portray just all this crazy stuff that only, that's easy enough to draw, but like conceptually is really crazy, and like exciting to look at. And he just built the comic from the ground up to be like what would be conceptually the coolest thing to see in a comic, and I think that's where you need to start, like to make just good comics in general. Start with like, what do I want to see in a comic? So for instance, a comic project I've got in the works called Prickly, my idea was like, it started from like, who's a cool main character I'd want to see. I'm not going to spoil what kind of character it is, but it's a cool main character. And then I thought like, what would happen in a story I would be excited about? There'd be a lot of fighting and a lot of titties, it would be pretty much just tits and... I hope you can still hear me. I got a potential spam call that for some reason the phone still fucking pushes through. Sometimes it fucks up my audio. But it would be like nonstop sex and violence with a strong sci-fi backdrop. That's what I would want to see in a comic, so that's what I write in a comic, With shonen, obviously, the sexual component has to be kind of reined in to a level that, like, it has to be acknowledged because teenagers are at an age where they're thinking about sex, but at the same time, they don't understand it. They're not worldly or experienced with it. So it has to be at a level that they can come to terms with, But the violence can go pretty crazy. And usually a key component of shonen is finding the right balance between like shock value art and shock value concept. Where like, it's one thing to see like something really violent happen, but it's another thing if it's conceptually violent. Like everybody remembers in Bleach where that one dude makes that other dude experience getting stabbed for like 17,000 years or something like that. And it's like just, it's not that like violent of a thing that happens. It's just a sword slowly going into a guy. But like conceptually, it's insanely violent, like way beyond anything you've ever heard of violent. So it showed it like you could either go the JoJo route of like literally showing something just so weird and grotesque and contorted that it's memorable, or you can go the Bleach route where it's like the idea of like, oh, the sword is shaped like a upside down guillotine because every time you hit somebody with it, their gravity increases until their head is in the bottom of it and you yank up and decapitate them. Like that's cool, edgy, conceptual shit. Jujutsu Kaisen is the perfect marriage of both, where there's both like insanely violent imagery and also insanely violent concepts. And I think that's why it's so fucking popular on that end. Like not almost at all sexual. There's like characters who have sexuality, but it's not really expressed through the story. Even in the way that it is in like, Naruto is like, I don't know, like some kind of weird gay trans thing. But there has to be some kind of undercurrent, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Insecurity, like that the story is about overcoming. Like either the character has to be very small or very weak or socially weak or poor, something that puts them in a a position where they need to grow in order to have what they want, and that growth will be exciting. So like whatever they're going to grow towards, we have to be like excited about what that will mean for them, you know? So like in Chainsaw Man, like Denji starts off like totally broke and with no human connections. And like at first it's about him kind of determining his values, and like a lot of the comedy is in like realizing that he's obviously not going to keep these values as the story goes on. So you're thinking, what are his values going to become? How will they evolve as he learns more about the world and has all these interactions with people, you know? In like Naruto, it's like, well, we know he's like this social outcast loser, but he wants to be literally the president, you know? So like, how is he going to win over everybody to liking him? I don't think Naruto really does a great job of keeping to that, following through on its mission, but it was enough to get your foot in the door. And then you start caring about other shit, you know? That's another thing. Shonen should be as complicated as possible without losing the audience. It needs to have tons of characters, tons of gimmicks, tons of fights, just as much like excess as you can think of, you know, for good shonen action. There needs to be like 100 named characters, every type of power you can think of. But you also have to include generic powers, but use them in unique ways. So like there's got to be a guy who can use ice, but he's got to be doing something different with ice than what you've seen. Or something, if it's cliche, it can be funny. Like with Mashal, everything they do is cliche, but they subvert the cliches for comedy. So it's like deliberate cliche, but then there's that one little thing that makes it different, you know? All right, I think that's all the keys to making good shonen. Anybody else got any requests? That'd be a good clip. I don't know if any of the clippers are going to end up watching this video, but maybe I'll clip it myself if none of them do. I don't know how much people keep up with the streams they don't watch. Like, I know there's way more people who watch the VOD than who watch the stream initially, but I don't know how many of them are just like checking on it or clicking through or like listening to the whole thing, or, you know. It's amazing to me how little I can really comprehend the audience and interaction with my videos, because I'm not there to watch you do it, and I would be. Like, if I could be a fly on the wall of your room watching you watch my videos, I would do that. That's how badly I want to understand what I'm communicating. June with another $4.99. Thank you very much. The main character is a chicken whose people get wiped out because of the potential of his race. The first villain tries to get them first. Are you pitching me a shonen? Hold on, you said... I'm trying to go for weird food world that has eldritch-type gods and a unique power system that interacts differently between different food groups and the foods in them. Main character is a chicken leg whose people get wiped out because of the potential of his race. The first villain to get to them first. I don't know if I can fully comprehend what you're pitching here, but it sounds interesting. I mean, combining food and fighting always works for me. There's been some successful... You know, there's been Toriko, which is about, like, cooking monsters, I think. Delicious in Dungeon, obviously. I don't know if that's shonen, but it's also about cooking monsters. You know, you've got fighting foodons. So I think there's precedent here. You could definitely have a successful, like, weird food-fighting manga. It sounds like you've got a really elaborate idea for how the world works, and that's good. So if you're trying to do this, your main character is a chicken leg, or just a chicken. So think about what would your main character be insecure about as a chicken. And it doesn't have to be stuff they would be insecure about in our world, but what would they be insecure about in the context of this world? So, like, if their problem is that they're so delicious that they're being, like, actively hunted, is that the idea? People get wiped out because of the potential of his race. So he's like... So he's the last of his kind, right? Like, the rest of his race was wiped out because they had potential to be the ultimate food. And so he's the last contender. So it's like it's definitely an overdog posing as underdog story. And by that I mean like Food Wars or One Punch Man, where like the main character is by nature overpowered, but contextually everyone's against them. Like they're the only one of their kind. There's no real proof of how great they're supposed to be. The powers that be want them dead. So like everything in the world is working against this person, but their natural ability combined with their ethics will allow them to surpass all of that. So you need to establish that their natural ability isn't enough, which you already kind of did by saying that the rest of them got wiped out. Like they were seen as such a threat that most of them were killed just so that they wouldn't be able to rise to power. But we're going to prove that one determined chicken leg is good enough to beat everything else, and it wouldn't be that way at the start, but through the power of friendship, right? So it has to be that at the start, chicken leg is trying to, keep alive in this world where people are constantly after him, and he thinks maybe there's no chance. He's always on the run. He's got there's nowhere he can go that he's not recognized as a chicken leg. So he's got to be like on the down low all the time. But then maybe he finds out that there's like some kind of secret society that's working against the main society because the main society is doing all these heinous genocides, and like they're like, oh, we understand your plight. Our people were wiped out. We're all actually the last of our kind, but anything they think is a risk, they wipe out. But if all of us join together, we can all take them out. Something like that. That would be my suggestion. The idea is that chicken people can basically have any power they want. They're really good vessels for all element types. Okay, so this is about how chicken tastes good with everything. Like how chicken can be dipped in any different type of sauce, and it has like just so much potential for culinary purpose. So therefore, it's considered like the ultimate. You can double dip. The chicken hit. At some point in the story, there has to be a big revelation that he can like double dip powers. Like, oh shit, he can use 2 flavors at once, like he'll be using pepper at the start, but then he'll get salt power, and then he can use salt and pepper, salt and pepper, some shit like that. Okay. So basically how powerful. Like, there are some foods that have a really strong taste, but it's just one flavor. And, like, that's the only flavor they can give. So chicken, by the power of, like, it's not that all these flavors are the best flavors, it's that I have so many flavors that I can hit you with. And so in certain situations where maybe your flavor is not hitting so well, I can bust out a flavor that's going to work, So that would be how you'd have to theme the battles, is like, other characters are always hitting the limitations of what their flavor can provide, but your guy is always like, haha, turns out in my third pocket I was keeping this sauce packet, speaking in very like broad metaphors for a storytelling style, but hopefully this makes sense. Chicken Man. Is he literally like a chicken leg? Like, are they dead? Like, they're not chickens. They're food, like living dead food, right? It's gonna be a trip. What if you realize this story, you're gonna fuck with people's heads. They're gonna be like, what the fuck am I reading? In a good way. I definitely want to read about, Food Wars, but don't call it Food Wars, because they already did that one. Wars between foods. Living foods. This is an idea for a comic? Like, what is the art style of this gonna look like? I guess if you have any materials, feel free to post them in the Discord. Keep us abreast of your story. Unless you're worried about giving too much away. having people steal your ideas. Although this sounds like enough of a cracked out idea that I don't know how easy it would be to steal. I need to have some success in some more categories. Everybody always believes in my ability to make a successful analysis video because I've done it before. I feel like I have lots of ideas that are worth something if realized. I don't have the ability to realize them, but I know there are people who do, who would want to reap the benefit of having those ideas. But I don't know how to connect those ideas with those people in a way that they're going to believe in those ideas if I haven't proven myself. By realizing I guess, similar... I don't think any two ideas are actually the same enough to compare like that, you know? But people will compare them. Like, people will find a reason to think it's the same thing. I was thinking about Vivzy Pop just now as I drifted off into the distance and thinking about how, like, Has Been Hotel came out, the prologue. That was a big hit. And then Hell of a Boss came out, and that was a big hit. And then Has Been Hotel, the show, came out, and is also a big hit. And it's, like, instinctive to compare them and think of them as, like, kind of the same. But to me, they're actually very different. Like, I like Hell of a Boss way more. I don't really care for Has Been Hotel. And it's hard for me to really put a finger on what the difference is or to describe it. But I don't think they could both be as successful as they are if people did not instinctively compare them. Like, if people hadn't seen one of her things and then thought, oh, I like that, so I'm going to check out more of her work. And then, like, when it's similar enough that it reads as the same, you're like, ah, I like all of this. But to me, there's always enough of a difference that I can go, I don't know, it's not really the same. Like, Bloodborne and Dark Souls and Elden Ring and even Dark Souls 3, they're not really the same, you know? They just all happen to be good. Like, it's not that... It's not that they're good because they're the same thing. They're good because the people who made them applied the same ethos to, like, making something good that they did to the other stuff. I guess with Vivian, it's the same thing. Like, she applied the same ethos of how does something be good to both shows, so that makes them feel similar. But, like, it's always super risky to try and bet on something like that. Like, you see so many bands who... You know, maybe they have a few successful albums, and then after that, like, nothing quite hits the same because people just understand what it is differently from how the band does. Or even myself, this with my content. Like, when I get messages telling me that, like, they wish that... There was that one comment specifically that said, I wish current Trixie content was just Digibro with a gender upgrade. And I was like, what is it besides that? Like, I literally don't know how to... And, like, I never know what they mean by current. Do they mean, like, this week? Like, what I'm doing, like, this month? Or, like, in the last 3 days? You know, I can never quite pinpoint what someone means when they're saying, like, what you're doing now is different from what you were doing before. I'm like, well, how now and how before? And, you know, like... To me, it all looks the same. It looks like I've just been doing the same exact thing. I know the streaming is new. It's a new format. But, like, the stuff I talk about is the same. You know, the way I talk about it is the same. It gets better in my mind. Like, I find better words. I get better at speaking. But maybe that's also a problem. Like, maybe the problematic elements of how I spoke before connected with more people because less people are good at thinking than I am. I don't fucking know. I don't know what changed from other people's perspective, you know? I only know my own. And I see this in you know, everybody has, like, there's artists, and there's the artist the relationship has with their audience. And I think in my case, uh there was a lot of conflation on my part of, like, I'll be satisfied if something I do gets seen by like a few people and they like it. So if I put out something that's incredibly successful and then something that's moderately successful, to me it's like the same emotional high. It's like, wow, somebody liked it. And I think that is what allowed me to get too weird too fast, where, like, for a long time I was doing like a super mainstream career and then a super not mainstream career, kind of side by side. And then I slowly bled them into one another, but not slowly enough. Like, it was working at first, and then at some point, like, the levee broke and too much came in at once. And I don't know, like, I guess it felt like like, just to some people, it has never felt like anything I was doing was different. Some of you who have been here since the Brony days, who were always watching the obscure content, who were always on the deeper side, they don't think much has changed. But if you were, like, only watching the videos I made that, like, you would get recommended after watching a Mother's Basement video 10 years ago, and now you're watching, like, one of my live streams, you're going to be like, what the fuck happened, Whereas if you were watching, Digibrony After Dark, none of this is weird to you, But it's just a matter of perspective. And I don't think I understood the different perspectives of people in my audience enough. I was only thinking about, like, the really deep tier hardcore people, but that even is like a strata where, like, there's different levels. Some people think they're deep tier hardcore and they don't even realize all the shit that they haven't seen, There's some people who think they're, like, a total expert, and then they find out about Media Melt magazine and they're like, oh. Well, I guess I got to get all that in. Or they find out about any of these split identities that I listed on this is all backwards for you, isn't it, motherfucker? The Girl from Nowhere, Acid Girl, Goldie Witch, Deep Purple, Trixie the Chopper, A-Log Executioner, Rogue Alien Pet performing excellent rhymes, Bee the Honey, Pure Gadanium, The Great Pumpkin, Boogie Pop Duo, The Witch in Gold, Baroness Phantom, Devil Lady Dancer, Tetsuan Iron Chan, Ghoster, Void Gazer, Mother Heaven, Manic Pixie Nightmare, Antigone, Oldest of the New School, Sun Queen, Fire Woman, Red Sparrow, Hero of the Villains, Queen Dissociative. All describing myself. A big part of it is so many incomplete projects and content that got a bit too aimless sometimes. I agree with that, but I also think, like, right now my content is especially aimless. It's literally live streams about whatever. The incomplete projects thing is a big problem, but it's also something where, from my perspective, it's just always been that way. Where, like, I've been infamous for unfinished projects since the blogging days, before I was an anime YouTuber, before I was even a Brody YouTuber, So to me, it's like, oh, I don't know. People expected me to finish a project? What, are you, fucking stupid? Like, haven't you been paying attention? At some point, everybody individually figures out, where your weaknesses are. But nobody starts being a fan because of your weaknesses. They start being a fan because of your strengths. Then they discover your weaknesses. Then they can be disillusioned and fall off, But I don't think most people were aware, when they started. Maybe it's also because, like, finishing the Asterisk War Sucks series was such a big deal, because like my Patreon blew up pretty massively when the last part came out. Because, like, I don't think people really believed it was going to be finished until it was finished. And that was people who already knew that I had left a lot of projects unfinished, who were like, oh my God, is she actually going to finish the Asterisk War project? And the only reason I was able to is that I wrote it so far ahead of it being complete. Like, I wrote something like 7 parts before I started even sending them to Devu to edit. And then, got it all done within like a month all the writing, I mean. And when it finished, it bought a lot of faith in me, I think, and I gained a lot of patrons, I gained a lot of views. I had some really successful videos not long after. All my really successful videos and all of my videos blowing up to a higher level of success all came pretty closely after that. And I don't think it's necessarily because of the Asterisk War Sucks series, but that contributed a lot to it, and it also created an image of me as somebody who finishes a big series, and I don't know if I finished one really big series since then. I mean, and even the ones I did weren't that big a deal. Like, people didn't care as much about complaining about Steins Gate Zero, for instance. Those videos still get comments though. I still get angry comments on the Steins Gate Zero videos and the Shinsekai Yori video all the time. Those are probably the ones that piss off the most people, because they're both shows that have a not just a fan base, but people who love them. People really like Shinsekai Yori and Steins Gate Zero. The Steins Gate Zero fans usually have better arguments for why I was wrong about some detail somewhere. They're usually not even trying to overarchingly debate what I'm saying, just pointing out how one or two things are wrong, and therefore the argument is invalid, which, I don't know, fair. With Shinsekai Yori, it's always no, you're an idiot. And I'm okay, prove it, All right, demonstrate to me where I was wrong about the show. And the few times they try, they are usually wrong. So, I'm still convinced Shinsekai Yori fans are dumb. Steins Gate Zero fans are dumb, but in a more defensive way, They're more willing to fight about it. You legit never heard of Shinsekai Yori outside of that one video I made? Good. That's the reputation it deserves. Shinsekai Yori came out at the same time as Sword Art Online. I think I talked about that in the video. And from the same studio. And it was definitely massively overshadowed in terms of success. But at the time it aired, it was the one that the anime bloggers were talking about as a good show that they were interested in, it was the artsy one. It had all the directors that people were interested in from the Sakuga world and stuff, and all these little experimental animation techniques. So everybody was blowing, and it, philosophical themes. So when that show was airing, people were fucking blowing it hard. And I remember I remember the first time, when it first started airing, watching the first episode and being no, hate it, didn't like it at all. And then a little later, I saw that it was getting all these glowing reviews once it concluded. I think another part of it is it's the rare anime with an ending. With anime, the standards for the quality of an ending are staggeringly low. Because most of the time you either don't get an ending or you get a fucking terrible ending. So when you get an ending that actually is meaningful and ties up the story and makes all of the themes clear, I think that's why Shinsekai Yori was so successful, is that the ending actually is an ending and it resolves everything, and people felt satisfied and they walked away that was a great marathon. I understand now that racism is bad. And then they give it a 10 out of 10, and it's yeah, but okay, everything about that sucked. Every part of that experience was awful and not entertaining, and when you start making people remember the actual plot happenings and think about them, they go, oh, fuck, that really did happen, didn't it? Wow, that show was kind of fucking stupid, wasn't it? Wow, now that you mention it, I don't remember anything about that show other than there was a rat man who taught me racism is bad. So, I think that's the level that show is on, is if you watch it all at once in an open mind and you're picking up what it's putting down, you're going to walk away with a strong feeling of, damn, racism bad. But if you watch it with your brain on and any amount of taste and sense, you'll walk away going, wow, that show fucking sucks. Almost as badly as racism. Good thing I already knew racism was bad and didn't need a fucking goofy-ass sci-fi anime to tell me about it. This is the content I was looking for. Trixie's bag. Would be talking shit about Shinsekai Yori, apropos of nothing. Yeah, that sounds right. Fucking old ass anime. Why is anime always so old? Even new anime is old. Japan's an old ass place. I really am not very interested in anime anymore. I'm a lot more interested in independent cartoons. They can be anime, like, Japanese or whatever. I don't think my whole argument I made in the anime is like from Japan video I made way back. I don't agree with it all anymore. I don't think, because it just, at the time, like, there was like 5 Western shows that were like, we got all our inspiration from anime, and like, they still weren't they weren't even calling themselves anime. But then like 2 years later, it came to a point where like, everything is influenced by anime, and half of it is calling itself Netflix is just indiscriminately calling everything anime, to most people, Castlevania is the Castlevania anime, Avatar is an anime, so at some point I was like, okay, it's all anime. It's just all anime. I don't care anymore. Anime has permeated. It no longer is a Japan thing. Anime is now just it's just a way of life. It is just what animation is. It's permanently embedded. So I don't really care where it comes from. What I do care about is who benefits from it? Who profits from the existence of the anime? Now, if you enjoy a show, you are benefiting from its existence. But if you spend money on enjoying the show, now there's like a cost-benefit analysis, and you got to think about where that money is going and who it's going to and how it's being spent. Is it like, especially if you could have gotten it for free, like with anime, you can get it for free. You don't have to pay for it. So as soon as like money enters the equation, it's like, well, okay, I understand why y'all want me to pay for this stuff. But if you actually ask me if I would pay for it, no, I obviously wouldn't. And that feels weird, right? Like consuming something for free that they want you to pay for, but you don't think it's worth paying for, and that's why you're consuming it for free. That's a weird place to be with media, Even like Umineko, right? I was fully willing to pay for Umineko. It's $75 to get all 3 games on Steam. I was going to buy all 3 of them. But the Umineko fan community told me, well, the Steam version doesn't even have voice acting or the PS3 sprites, which make the game better. So you can instead go download this free version that's better than the one on Steam, and it won't cost you any money. And I went, well, obviously I'm going to fucking do that. That's a way better idea. That's a way better experience for me. Why in God's name would I pay money for it? Like if I'm going to get a better experience for free, that makes no sense to pay money for it. And anime fans, and especially visual novel fans, are autistic enough to completely agree with that. They're like, yeah, of course. Why would you, And we all know Ryukishio 7's already made a shitload of money off of Umineko. It's already a major, it's a huge IP. He is personally at a godlike status within the realm of visual novels where he could write literally anything. We're going to buy it, and obviously we are going to do that because we know literally anything he writes will be good. He's not going to try to write something shitty. He's going to try to write something good. We're all going to like it. But he doesn't need that kind of individual, like everybody got to buy the game on Steam, because who is really making money from that? Steam? The people who own the rights to the visual novel, the publishers, and like, sure, all those people made it possible for us to get the game on some level, for him to have this career on some level. But ultimately, Ryukishio 7's the one we care about. He's the one who gave us this gold. He's the one that you're trying to give the money to. If I can't give him $25 directly, Do I really care about all the rest of it if I can get it for free? You know, not really. But I don't like that. I don't like feeling that way about the stuff I consume. I want to be so excited about it that I'm dying to throw money at it. You know, that I'm like, oh, I cannot wait to spend more on this thing I love. You know, I don't throw that much money at Dick Masterson, but I've paid, you know, I'm a patron of the podcast. I know the guy has more money than I do. I want him to. I want him to have as much money as keeps him comfortable living in his nice house in LA, doing his podcast, and being funny for me every week. Because when I don't listen to Dick Masterson for like 2 weeks, my pent-up rage becomes too great. Listening to this podcast is like a release valve. It's like all the dumb shit I had to hear my mom say about Donald Trump, you can just... And sure, I might not like everything Dick has to say either. It doesn't matter. It's a release valve. I need it. I need the Dick Show podcast to exist. So I'll pay for it to exist. I'll pay more than other people for it to exist. And if Dick comes into town and he's doing a live show, I need to be at that live show. And if they're selling merch at that live show, I'm going to buy the merch at that live show. You know why? So there'll be another live show. Because I need that another live show. That's the kind of shit I like to support. Lackadaisy makes me feel that way. And I don't even know much about the structure of how it's created or funded or anything. I just know they got a Patreon. They got a YouTube channel. They got a shop run by Glitch, which is another animation company I respect. Because they also make stuff I like. And I think, I don't know, there's no negative for me giving money to this thing. Like, as long as it'll mean there's more of it, I'm going to keep throwing money at it. I'm going to buy the fucking plushies. I'm going to fucking pay for the Patreon, you know? Because I need more of these cats. Because it convinces me that life is good. Life is worth living. You go, fuck. I feel seen. I feel understood. I feel like people have taste and are making good things. I feel like this world is allowing the passage of niceness into it, as opposed to only allowing seeping rot to gush. The refreshment of being where I am. You know, again, I'm a thrifty person. I don't ask for tons of money. I ask for small amounts of money, and then I perform on the basis. I say, hey, give me some money. I'll rant about anything you want. I'll watch your favorite fucking show. I want you to get so much out of it that you're eager to give me more money because of how much you got out of spending that money previously. You're like, wow, every time I give Trixie $10, she gives me $100 worth of self-satisfaction. What a worthy trade, you know? But I also want you to approach this not with a gambling mentality, but with a, what was the other word I used? Frugal, that's not the word. Thrifty mentality. And most of you do. Most of the people who pay me, I know you're being thrifty because you usually pay me to do whatever will get the most bang for the buck. People rarely just throw money at me on a gamble. They're rarely like, well, maybe this will be an interesting topic. It's like, nah, Trixie will definitely have some shit to say about this. Or, nah, I definitely want to see her reaction to this video. You know, people are making sure they get their money's worth. And that's good because it means that you'll come back and do it again. If you're gambling and you start losing, you're not going to be able to afford to do it again. You spent all your money. You took too many wrong gambles. You know, if you throw $10 if you're like Necromancer and you throw $50 at me and then your video gets shit on and then you feel like a slighted customer, I'm like, I'm not the one who ran the roulette, buddy. You're the one who played the odds on whether I was going to like this video or not. And if you were paying attention, if you were good at gambling, you would have known this was going to fail. You'd have known, if you knew my taste, if you read the room, If you understood the taste of the people that you're paying for, you would have known what was going to happen. But that's not the way he approached it. He didn't have a thrifty mindset. He thought, I'm going to throw a whole bunch of money at Trixie because I'm going to win. I'm going to win. She's going to love my video. It's going to get 100,000 views. Everybody knows that Trixie's got the Evangelion takes. Trixie's got Ava videos with 500,000 views. Ava videos with almost 1 million views. If Trixie talks about my Ava video and she likes it, it's going to soar to the stratosphere. So I'll spend $50 fucking dollars to get her to talk about my Ava video. And then halfway through it, this video kind of sucks. Everybody kind of hates this video. Everybody's turning on this video. Now, what could Necromancer have done? He could have been grateful. He could have said, I'm so glad you gave me all this good advice. I'll make sure to consider all this. Next time I'll talk faster. Next time I won't leave in so many erroneous details. Next time I'll make the gaps in between segments a little bit shorter. Next time I won't use footage that's going to get your stream taken down. Apologize maybe for getting my stream. Any amount of humility would have gone over so well. Would have gone over so beautifully. Everybody would have said, wow, not only did you give me $50, but you even took my advice. But no. It was, I paid you. You should love my video. How are you not loving my video? Well, you would be loving my video if Bird wasn't here. Well, if everybody else wasn't telling you that this video wasn't good, then you'd be enjoying it. No, you took a bad risk and you failed. And anybody else could have told you it was a bad risk. The people in my chat, they know what they're doing. Laputia knows what they are doing. When Laputia, I don't know how you're actually supposed to pronounce his name. When Laputia recommends something, the mentality is like, I need an edgy queer's take on edgy queer media. There's like a clear agenda to everything being sent to me from Laputia. It's, here's something a trans person wrote that other trans people complained about. Go. Like, that's what Laputia is. I'm the springboard for problematic trans content, and I love that. It's perfect. It's exactly the brand identity I'm going for. Lucario fan knows I am looking for autistic, furry, gay shit, and goes, here you go, I got you. I know actually every piece of autistic, gay, furry media, boom, right in your face. I'm like, yes, y'all know exactly what you're doing. That's not gambling. That's measured risks. Thriftiness. They know I'm the best they got. Would they rather have a bigger YouTuber? Yeah. Everybody wishes a million sub YouTuber was talking about their favorite show. I do. I don't want to be talking about whatever I like to 20 people. I want to be talking about it to 20,000 people. But you know what? We have each other. I can't make 20,000 people like me. And you can't make 20,000 people like the show. But we can both make 1,000 people like it. We can do that. And we can work from there. Get those 1,000 people to talk to 1,000 more people. It's a pyramid scheme. It's always a pyramid scheme. I'm the eye in the pyramid. You must spread my visions and wisdom. I did enjoy the first 9 minutes or so of that Necromancer video. Well, enjoyed is a strong word. I was being nice because I didn't know it was his video. I thought he had sent me, like, if I'm watching a content creator I've never heard of for the first time, and I'm being paid by somebody who's like a friend, like, I thought it was a friend of his. I think he even said it was a friend of his. Like, lying. The old, my friend, I've got this friend, like, Necromancer pulled one of those. So I'm thinking, this person has paid me to watch their friend's video. And to me, whether the video is good or bad, the audience is going to figure that out. You are going to decide whether you like it or not. I'm just going to offer my thoughts on the experience of, being forced to watch it. So for the first 9 minutes or so, I was kind of taking it like, well, let me find the good. What is there to like about this? Because I'm thinking no one's ever going to see this video except for whoever's watching my channel. It's on Odyssey. It's got like 100 views, if that. Like, no one's gonna see this video except for whoever's watching it with me. So I was trying to be as fair and nice about it as possible, you know? And then the next day, coming back to it with Bird, it's like I'm still kind of trying to be fair and nice, but Bird is sitting there like, wait a minute, this video sucks. Like, are you really like being nice about this? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's like some guy I've never heard of, you know, some independent nobody who nobody's going to see except for through this. I don't want to be sitting here shitting on a nobody, you know. But then as people kept getting more mad and then Necromancer started getting defensive, and then we realized it was Necromancer's video, and then it was all like, oh, this guy's a douchebag. Like, oh, I don't have to be nice about this. I don't have to try to protect this person's friend's feelings because this person's friend doesn't fucking exist and this person's an asshole, you know? So, all right, let's be really honest. Let's tell you everything wrong with the video, you know? Like, I didn't have to be this way about it, but you've forced my hand, you know? That was how it felt anyway. I don't really get the appeal of sending someone your video for a pat on the back. Like, I typically, personally, don't send stuff to people unless I am pretty confident it's good and that they're going to like it because I know them personally. Like, I don't know, I don't send things to, like, more popular people and be like, look at my thing I did, because if it's good, it will get to them. Like, if it's good and it's something they like, it should get to them. And if it doesn't get to them, it might not be good or something they like, you know? So I don't want to be the one to find that out, like reveal it to myself that this person wasn't going to like my content, you know? Like, okay, if someone enjoys, in general, anime analysis videos, let's take ourselves back in time a little bit, right? Because anime analysis right now is kind of all over the place. It's not like I feel like there's tons of channels doing it, and all of them just kind of have their own community, and there's not much interaction. Whereas, like, circa 2016, 2017 would have been the height of AniTubers all trying to, like, do a thing together. Like, we all thought, this is AniTube. This is a thing we are all doing at the same time, and we should try to do it together as best we can. But there was always the problem of all of us are really judgmental, and nobody likes one another's work. Everybody likes their own work, their own approach. Nobody likes anybody else's approach. And so there's not a lot of unity, you know? There's some collaboration, but not a lot of unity. And I think that's why it died. That's why the concept of AniTube kind of just bled out, you know? And now there's not really an AniTube. There's a bunch of AniTubers, there's more than before, but they're not doing anything together, you know? And, yeah, R.I.P. AniTube indeed. As soon as Nino stopped posting, AniTube was officially dead. Nino is the heart and soul of AniTube, and without him, there is not one. So, you know, it's all up to him if he ever wants to resurrect AniTube, but I don't think he does. I think he's content to let that die while he goes on to be an artist, a real artist, doing Screw the Omega. I kind of lost track of what the fuck I was talking about, bringing up AniTube. I've been walking around on this playground. Why did I bring that up? What was I trying to talk about there? It said something to connect with the Necromancer and the criticism and not being able to face criticism. Shit, I lost it. We need a Channel Awesome for AniTubers. I want cringe collaborations. No. Channel Awesome, I think, is unfortunately... Channel Awesome, I think, ruined a whole generation of video essayists by showing everybody how to do it wrong. Like, how to do a bad big group and bad big collabs. Because in reality, there's only like 3 or 4 people who really made a career out of that. Like Nostalgia Critic. I guess there's the people who work directly for Nostalgia Critic. Like, whoever produces his show. And then like Nostalgia Chick, and then she kind of became her own thing eventually. Todd in the Shadows, and he kind of was always very tangentially connected. Linkara is like the best known actual, like, you know, Linkara and Spoonie, who both became like total laughing stocks and lolcows, you know. And then there was like 25 other fucking people with that guy with the glasses who no one remembers or gives a shit about at all. And even they, even the smallest of small fries who wasn't getting any views, like, was still seen as having like a certain level of like repute, I guess, in public, because they were accepted at all, and so many people were applying. Everybody wanted to be a part of that guy with the glasses because it was just the only establishment, and people love establishment. Holy fuck, do people love establishment. Something's established, get me the fuck in there. Not established, no. Oh, you better establish that first, or I'm not even gonna fucking touch it. That's the kind of response I get all the time. I love the unestablished. I love to be in unestablished places. I love to do unestablished things. I like to get the rummagings of an establishment begun. I like to go, well, I couldn't help but notice this hasn't been established yet. Maybe I should get that started. And they're like, ooh, are you gonna do the work to like complete that establishment? And I'm like, nah, y'all can do that if you want. I'm just showing you there could be an establishment here. I'm not saying I'm gonna build the fucking establishment. And then other people got to decide for themselves, are we gonna build this establishment? Usually they don't. 9 times out of 10, nobody wants to build my establishment because they don't believe in it. It's not established. They need it to already be an establishment before they can join the establishment. Really unfortunate. Really bad for humanity in general. But, so, you know, at a time, the only establishments were Angry Video Game Nerd, who was singular, and the Nostalgia Critic, which was a whole empire, that guy with the glasses.com. And so everybody was competing to be in that, but like none of that was good. None of it. The people who are good now became good. Todd in the Shadows got better. Lindsay Ellis got better. Their early content, not great. Everybody else who's not those two people, all of their content was always dog shit. So, you know, like, everybody was trying to copy stuff that wasn't even good. And it wasn't until, like, much later when people who just established something better and new, you know, came along. Like, once you had Red Letter Media, it was like, oh, shit, we could copy this if we wanted to be, like, good and liked, you know, instead of just merely successful because you exist. And, you know, the more competition there is, the harder it is for any one thing to become the end-all, be-all, the way that guy with the glasses was. So, I mean, it's possible that they are actually bigger than they ever were, but they are no longer the only thing. You know, there's so many different establishments. And I've never seen one that I wanted to join. I have still yet to see one single establishment in the world of YouTube that I went, oh, I wish I could be a part of that establishment, you know. Maybe Brandon Rogers' writing team, but I feel like they're already doing fine. They don't need me, you know, or his acting team. If I could be a part of his crew, that's the only people I've met who I was like, oh, man, y'all are really cool. But I don't think I'm even talented enough to run with that crew, you know. So that's its own problem. You have to actually be good to run with a good crew, you know. But most crews that I could run with, I think I'd be carrying all the weight, and I'd hate to deal with people. You know, I'd hate to deal with the people who are all going to act like they know better because of maybe they have more money or they just don't trust unproven ideas or whatever. You know, I've never met somebody who... The only person I've met who's really been willing to take risks on my ideas is Riley. And... you know, I feel like Riley and I have taken a lot of risks on one another's ideas, and the trouble we have is getting anybody else to believe both of us combined, you know? Like, it's fine if we both like each other's ideas, but neither one of us really has, like, a lot of financial power to make anything happen, so, you know, we can do a great job pitching to one another, But as soon as a third person enters the scenario, it's like, well, they're looking at us and they're seeing a couple of broke stoners. They're not seeing visionary genius. How do we make them see visionary genius? It's kind of like the problem of, there's in the tech world, like every job asks for 5 years of experience at the entry level. And it's like, well, how do I get the 5 years of experience if I need it to be at entry level? And the answer is either work for free or make friends. Work by way of working for free, or have the friends already that can get you into the positions that you're looking for. Or be, in fact, so overwhelmingly talented and convincing that everybody's like, well, we have to listen to you or else we're not going to make any money, But good luck. Good luck with that one. You'll figure out if you're that talented and convincing pretty quickly, You'll probably know it by the end of high school. If you haven't figured out that you're incredibly talented and convincing by the end of high school, it's probably you're not that. You're probably just not that, I need a spokesperson to be my face and an idea translator to convince people to give me money. I think everybody wants that, though, It's not even that I need help translating the ideas. It's about who would buy them. Like, people who only understand stuff, like, okay, I'm able to have these ideas because I have a creative mind. Having a creative mind is not what leads you to having opportunity. Opportunity, it's more really luck driven than anything. Like opportunity is something that kind of surrounds you, and then you have the option of whether or not to seize opportunity. And depending on how you look at it, opportunity exists everywhere. But you have to figure out how to navigate through it, if that makes sense. So for instance, there might be somebody who's willing to buy my ideas, but the navigation is finding them, who would buy my ideas? Where are they? What are they willing to pay for them? Can they actually realize them and make a profit? Will they feel fucked over if I sell them something and they don't know how to use it and they fuck it up? There's so many factors at play in figuring out how to get an idea into the hands of somebody who can use that idea. And the only reason I think it's something I can do is I have infinite ideas. I have always got ideas. Ideas just come fucking flowing out of me. But not all of them are amazing ideas. Sometimes you can't really tell what's wrong with an idea until you discuss it with somebody else, And even then, good ideas take a lot of effort a lot of the time. And if that good idea takes so much effort that it would require somebody to change their entire lifestyle around your idea, this might not be worth it for them, It could even be really small. Let me give you an example of one thing, right? So Sunops, my new web novel series. I've been trying to get a re-recording done of the first chapter that has voices, because I realized after recording it, not only that I had recorded it to the wrong microphone, so I had to redo it, but also that it would be better if it had voices. And it'd be easy enough to get Bird to do the main character, who's based on him anyways, because I've got him on hand all the time. But there's another character, the Tiger Man. I'm trying to remember his name now. It's been a couple days since I thought about this story. Something Malone. Shit, I can't remember his fucking name. It's something really funny. It's like Aces Malone. The character Aces, the tiger guy, on the day that I was planning to do this re-recording, almost a month ago, I had our friend John around. And if I had just gotten him to do it real quick before I lost track of him, it would have been perfect. Because he only has 6 or 7 lines. But I didn't manage to get that recorded in time. So I contacted him by phone. I said, John, could you get me I don't care at the recording quality, just if you can find a way to record those lines for me, please do it. A week passed. I heard nothing. Finally, he responds, I'm going to get to work on those lines soon. Sorry for taking so long. That was 2 days ago. Still no word back. So that's fine. I offered to my brother Victor, when he was over at the house on the 4th of July, I said, hey, Vic, could you do the voice of this character real quick? And Vic's response was, but then you're going to need me again when you write more of this character, and I don't really want to have to do voice acting. So in my mind, I was thinking, I want to get the people who are close to me to record on this, because if this becomes successful, they'll be the voices of the characters. Everybody will know them as the voice of this or that character. And let's say this IP becomes worth a whole lot of money at some point, and people like the original cast and want to keep them around relevant to it, or they can make some kind of residuals up. Like, I'm always thinking of it like, well, what if it's super successful though? You know? And that's where my gambler brain comes in. Where on the one hand, I'm trying to tend to, well, what do I have around me? What can I do with my own talents? But on the other hand, I'm thinking, yeah, but I should use what's at my disposal and use my own talent to make strong gambles. I should use all that energy to build up towards making a strong gamble. And so every time I make one, I'm thinking this could be the winning roll. But if it's not immediately the winning roll, it immediately makes me go, ah, shit, I gotta fucking figure out what is gonna be the winning roll, right? Oh man, do I keep working on this thing that's not immediately successful in the hopes that it eventually becomes successful? Or do I re-roll and try another thing? That's where I'm at all the time. But some things I just believe in. Sunops, I just believe in it. I think it's a good idea. That's why I'm going through with it. It's not about that I think it could be massively successful. It's that I think it's a good idea, and it'll make people who read it like me more, you know, as an author. They'll be like, ah, you've done a cool thing that made my life enriched. Now I feel better about your existence. That's what I want. So I'm looking at it like, well, the opportunity is here, that this could be some kind of big successful thing. But in Victor's mind, he's thinking, if it is a big successful thing, I become successful for a thing I don't want to do. Voice acting. I don't want to have to be paid. I don't want you to be making a whole lot of money dependent on me continuing to voice act. And I'm like, you know what? I understand that. That makes sense to me. But how do I convince somebody else, you know, no, this is worth your time, because it might turn into something you love doing, you know? It's difficult. I feel like, you know, art is just gaslighting people into, you know, having thoughts. Whatever thoughts you're trying to get people to have. You're trying to convince them to have those thoughts through art. The thought I'm trying to convince people to have is, Trixie deserves all my money. Trixie deserves to do whatever she wants. And therefore she deserves all of our money. Because look at how much she can do with so little. Even being broke and with so little at her disposal, she'll find a way to make a cool vlog in the park or something. I don't know. That's probably not worth anything to anybody. Or it's worth the world to someone who has nothing to offer. Who knows? Luckily, I just be cruising along this life, you know? I breeze my stresses out. When I feel cooped up, I go outside and I rant into a camera for 2 hours. And then I get back to work. Is this work? Not really. Not in my mind. I didn't expect to make any money doing this live stream. I came in expecting to thought dump for 2 hours and then fuck off. That's about where I'm at. And I did make money, which is almost like a little bit convincing that it was work, but it's not really. That's spirit money. That's, you know, you feel the enrichment in your spirit and you pass it forward into my spirit. You know, like I don't feel that as like a financial gain. I feel it as a spiritual gain that comes in the form of finances. Does that make sense? Not really. All right, I'm gonna shut up. My feet are starting to hurt. I'm hungry, and probably gonna get some weird fast food. I might go to a Fazoli's because I'm nearby to one. Bird never lets me go to Fazoli's. He's always like, I don't want to eat Fazoli's. He's never had Fazoli's. I think when I told him about Fazoli's for the first time, I was like, so it's fast food Italian. It's bad, but you gotta try it because they got free breadsticks that are really good. And he's like, I don't want to eat bad fast food Italian food. But everywhere we go, they're always super highly rated. In the Midwest, it's always like there's tons of Fazoli's and they always got like 4.4 rating. And I'm like, this is most people in America's only conception of Italian food. How bad could it truly be? I know it's very bad, but how bad could it truly be? Okay,